Spin-off! Is there any word more thrilling to the human soul? When the popularity of Sonic the Hedgehog exploded following the release of the first game, Sega couldn't move fast enough to put out the inevitable sequel. When the sequel proved that Sonic wasn't a one-hit wonder, Sega moved to make sure there would be more games in the coming years. In 1993, Sega would drop two spin-offs to the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. One, a pinball game starring Sonic, and the other, a reskin of the Japanese puzzle game Puyo Puyo, featuring Dr. Robotnik. Both games would be produced by Sega of America and would feature characters and ideas from the two American Sonic cartoons airing at the time. Sonic Spinball was released in November of 1993 for the Sega Genesis, with ports being released for Game Gear and Master System. The game was developed by the Sega Technical Institute by an American-led team, as the Japanese developers were busy working on the then-upcoming Sonic 3. The pinball sections of Sonic 2's Casino Night level were highly praised at the time of the game's release, which inspired the direction of Sonic Spinball. The game's a platformer that's mostly played on pinball-inspired stages, requiring the player to flip Sonic around to get where he needs to go. While there are moments where the player can walk around, most of the game happens while Sonic's curled into a ball. The objective is to collect all the Chaos Emeralds in a stage and defeat the stage's boss in order to progress to the next stage. Because this game was produced by Sega of America, they decided to tie the game in with the then-recent Sonic the Hedgehog Saturday morning cartoon. While the Robotnik depicted in the game matches his Japanese design, his robot sidekick Cluck from the Saturday morning cartoon appears as an obstacle in the first stage. Sonic's friends Sally, Rotor, and Bunny appear as trapped animals in one of the bonus games, the first and only time the Freedom Fighters would appear in a game, outside of archival materials and compilations. Spinball is a fun game with a unique premise that did its job well. Hold the fans over until Sonic 3 comes out. The game can be a bit difficult and levels take longer to beat than in standard Sonic games, but the challenge was worth it and rarely felt cheap. Seeing the characters from the comics and cartoons was really cool too. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine was released in December of 1993 for the Sega Genesis, and again had ports for both the Game Gear and Master System. Unlike Sonic Spinball, which was wholly original, Mean Bean Machine is actually a reskin of the Japanese puzzle game Puyo Puyo. The game was likely changed due to the Puyo Puyo characters being too anime at a time before anime had become popular in the United States. The game's design was inspired by the first episode of The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon. Sonic and Tails don't appear or get any sort of mention, but Dr. Robotnik and his goofy robot sidekicks Scratch and Grounder, who likely inspired the later Orbot and Cubot, appear in the opening cutscene and as opponents in the game. The game holds a special legacy among Sonic fans, and would be a Western exclusive game until the Sega Puzzle Pack PC collection was released in Japan, as Sega Archives from USA Volume 2 in 2000. The game likely wasn't released in Japan initially, as the Dr. Robotnik name and design wouldn't resonate with Japanese fans who knew him as Eggman. Sonic wasn't as big a hit in Japan as he was in North America and Europe, which is likely why these spin-offs were made by Sega of America. Of course, the Japanese would get their own spin-off with Sonic Eraser. Eraser was among the first downloadable games available on a home console, thanks to the Mega Drive modem, which was only ever available in Japan. For a brief period after the Mega Drive's Japanese launch, Sega offered a modem that one could attach to their system, and using a cartridge called the Sega Game Library, they could download games from the internet. Some games like Flicky and Columns would go on to see full retail releases, but exclusives like Sonic Eraser would be forgotten for years. In 2004, Sega offered an emulation service to their Japanese customers, which is how Western fans eventually discovered the game. The game is a simple rotating blocks puzzle game that features two Sonics competing head-to-head. The game can be played single-player against a computer, or two-player with a friend. During matches, when one player makes a good move against the other, a short animation featuring their Sonic punching the other Sonic would play. As a puzzle game, it wasn't very impressive, and the Sonic license seems to be slapped on in a less impressive fashion than Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. As time went on, we'd see Sonic and Friends in other spin-off titles, typically games that could feature any mascot character and you wouldn't know the difference. It wouldn't be long before Sonic starred in a racing game, leading many fans to ask, why does Sonic need to drive a car? I guess that's a mystery we'll have to solve next time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified of future videos. If you really like us, subscribe to our Patreon to catch all our future videos first. Peace out.